Okay, now we're just doing an assembly exercise, so we're going to put all these parts together to make this rocket fire I've drawn up. So we'll keep this open so we can see what parts are where. And these should be all the parts you've downloaded from Moodle. So if we want to, we can go to View. Depends what, if you've got Microsoft 10 or 11, where you find this, but it's usually over here, I think, in 10. We can go extra large icons and we can have a quick look at all the parts like that if we want to. So I'll try and build this basically around this main part, and I'll constrain it to the assembly space so that it's level with the bottom and then centered around this part. So we'll come over to Inventor and we'll go New IAM. So now my assembly space is open. We're just going to come over to View, make sure our visual style is shaded with edges so we can see things a bit more clear. And we're going to go over to here to Assemble. And what we're going to do is place the main flue in here and constrain it in two ways so that it can't move side to side or back to forward, but I'm going to leave it for up and down. So if we come over to your view as well, we can also go degrees of freedom, and you can see in here that this thing can rotate and move with the arrows. So if we go over here to origin and we start constraining things, expand the origin of both parts, go back to assemble and constrain, we can do the YZ to the YZ, and I'm going to do them flush like that. And you can see it's lost an arrow there, so it can rotate around this axis, it can move backwards and up and down. So let's constrain it this way so it can't move back and forth like that. So we'll go back to constrain and we'll find this plane. So I'm just going to constrain it this way to this way, and we're going to go flush so it's up the correct way like that. Apply. And now if we look at this bit, it's only got one way it can go. It can go up and down like that. So we'll leave that for now, and let's minimize this. Let's bring in a right leg. Go open, and you can see that can move all around the place now, so we've got all those arrows there. So I'm just going to mate that to that. Mate this face to this face. Apply that. Now we've lost a degree of freedom there. And then I'm going to center these holes to these holes. So I'll go that one to that one. And I'll do these ones too. And that should make it so it can't move any way around this part here. And you can see this thing can go up and down with this. So what I want to do now, I've got my legs there. I know where the bottom is. I'm going to open up look at my plane that's on this axis here. I'm going to turn the visibility on. And I'm going to constrain this plane to the bottom of the foot. And we'll close that. So you can see now we've got no degrees of freedom on it. So it's no arrows on anything. We can't move anything around. It's always important to remember if you do muck these up, you can always come over here and there's your different constraints. So you can right click and edit or delete them. If you're finding that you've put something on the wrong way, just usually if I find it out straight away, I'll go Control Z, fix it right away. But if you don't find it till later, you can come through here and delete them and change them. So let's turn all these on just so we can see where we are. So you can see the assembly space. So we constrained centrally to this bit this way, flat on the back here, and the bottom of the assembly space is the bottom of the foot. So it's always a good idea to center things when you're drawing them, because if you wanted to say pattern this leg or do a mirror of this leg, you can just mirror it about this plane and it'll end up exactly on that other face there. So you'd only have to draw one leg, which is what I had done originally. So I had only done a mirror, and then I've saved it as a new leg. So I saved it as left leg. So I drew one side up, the leg and the brace, and then I just mirrored it, and then I had my new part, which was the mirror image of that one. Hold Control and click on these three planes now, and just turn the visibility off. So we don't need to see them. Let's bring in our left leg. And got our degrees of freedom there. So first thing I'll do is I'll mate that face to that face. And then we'll do the mate with the holes. So make sure you grab the inside of the hole like that, so the axis shows up. That one. That one. And let's see where our home view is. So home view is where I want it. So that's good. So now we've got our legs on there. Might as well do the leg braces while we're in that general area. So we'll go left leg brace this time. I'll put that in there. Escape. And this goes up. These go up the way. So if you look here, they're facing down the little rounded bits there. So we'll put those facing down on this one. So I can mate this face here to this face here. And I'll mate the holes essentially. That one to that one. And that one to that one. So there's one brace. Let's do the right hand one now. Same again here, just mating it to the face of this bit. And I'll make sure I do this one as well, so it can't move at all. So there's our legs and braces in. Next thing I'm going to bring in is this this top plate here. So if we have a look at the view, you can see it's perhaps a bit longer this way than it is that way. So that will be the shorter side of it, that will be the longer side of it. And the reason I'm bringing that one in is because I'm going to line up the top edge flush along here, and that way I'll get this part will come up and the spacing will make sense for the ashtray there. So let's bring that in. We've got the front plate. And the shorter side is on here, so let's make it flush with the top for a start. Let's go flush, flush to flush, like that. Now I'm going to do a mate from the edge of this bit to here, so that face will be flush, be mated there. And this is where centralizing everything comes in handy. So we'll expand the origin of this part, and we'll go central plane of that, and we'll do the central plane of the assembly space. A little bit hard to see in this view, but we can rotate it. See how it's purple, so that usually means that it's the wrong option, so we might have to go flush, and that just automatically moved it there, so we'll go apply to that. So there's our front plate. Let's bring in our base inlet panel. And let's mate this edge to the bottom of this. That's the way it goes. So we'll go edge to the bottom. You can see it's kind of gone around the wrong way, but that's alright, because we'll sort that out, and you can see it can still rotate. So we will change the direction by mating this face to the face of the main chute there. And that's come around the right way, and sort of halfway through the leg, but that's right. Go accept. Let's minimize that front plate and expand that base inlet panel, and we'll centralize these origin planes here. So there's our assembly center, and there's the center of our base inlet panel. So now we've got the base inlet panel plate on there. So I can close that. Now we might as well put the ashtray in there, since we're working our way up. So let's go open to that, drop that in, and that ashtray is going to sit on this bottom flange of this, the main chute here. So, and it's symmetrical, so it can go up either way. So let's do a mate from there to here. And you can see it's round the wrong way, but that's alright. So what we're going to do is we'll do a mate from here to the little tag. So that means the tag's sitting right there. Apply. And we'll come over here and we'll use our center plane again. That one there to the center of this assembly space. And that's centralized that now, so we can hit apply on that one. And if you zoom around a little bit, you can see it's got a little bit of clearance to get through that radius and everything. You see it's sort of interfering a tiny bit, so in reality you'd probably have to sand the edge a tiny little bit to get it to fit in there. But it depends how accurate the manufacturing is anyway. So now we've got an ashtray. Let's close that. Let's bring in the divider plate. So we'll go place. That one there. And we know on this one that this edge sits on the bottom of this one. So it sits in there and then pushes in where that tab is. So let's hit constrain that edge to that. Make sure it's on mate. And we'll do this back edge here to the back edge of the chute, the flue there. And then the only thing left to do is centralize it. So we'll bring our origin planes open again for this part. And it is the XZ in this one. And the YZ in this one. So we'll join those two together. You see it's come up, edit, it's come up, cannot be resolved. So that just means I should be going to a flush instead. So I'll click on flush. Let's do this one and this one again, and flush should work fine. So you can see that bit centralized there. Right, getting there. Let's minimize that. Let's bring in the transition. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at what planes we've got available. So go under folded model, because sometimes if you're constraining something like this to an edge, what happens when it's done this edge here is kind of, you see it's kind of on an angle. It's not dead flat, because then you'd have to cut the metal on an angle to, get that flat. So it's helpful to use the planes for that sort of thing. So let's find the plane. So we should have a plane there, which is the flat face from which that was formed. So I'll constrain that plane, and we'll constrain that to the top edge of this one. You can see it's gone the wrong way, so we'll just hit flush instead of mate. And the seam, what way around is it? So this seam is that way around, and this one doesn't really matter, but I'll try and keep it the same. So let's see where the center plane is of this. So we've got a center this way and center that way. So we'll align this center with this center plane, and now we've got it round the opposite way of the drawing, but that's okay. It doesn't matter what way around that goes anyway. Now the thing that might be difficult is how do we align it this way, because the origin plane here is at the back, and the only really good plane we can use here is in the center. So you can do that by offsetting it a certain distance from that plane. So you could go a flush constraint or a mate and then tell it to go half the distance of that transition there, half that distance off of it. But the quickest and easiest way I find is we just go create a plane, and we go midway between two planes, and then we can click this outside edge here and this outside edge here. Make sure you do either outside outside or inside inside, so you get it actually in the center, and then we can use that to constrain this part. So we've got this one here and this plane we just created. So this plane's in the assembly space. It's a work plane, so it's handy for, just for this exact sort of thing. You see we've got that work plane now, which is in the center of this part. So I'm going to leave that on so that we can use it for the grill at the top as well. So let's bring in the grill plate. Drop that in, and right, so we're going to constrain this to the top of this part. So what I'll do for this one is I'll use that face, that interface there, and I'll just use an edge. And you can see it's kind of gone a bit funny, but that's alright. So I can do that, and then it'll sit on top of that edge, so I could give it an angle, tell it to be, horizontal to this, or perpendicular to this. Or I can also add another constraint to it and go that edge to the top of this side as well, and then it's going to go flat across those two edges. You can see it's kind of on a funny angle there, so we need to tell it sort of orientation that it's rotated in and exactly where it is left and right. So that's what we're going to use this work plane for, and the origin plane of this one. So origin plane of the transition, the origin plane of the grill plate. So let's turn it around this way and mate it to that work plane we just made before. Apply. Then it just needs to know how it is this way across. So let's get the plane that's going through the grill, that one there, and we'll use these assembly space constraints planes for that. See, it's gone upside down now, so we're just going to click on flush rather than mate. That'll put it up the right way. You can see we're all constrained here, knows where it is. So it's stuck to this main body. And the next thing we can do is we can turn this work plane off because we don't need it anymore. So that's most of the parts on there. So you can always go into your view here, and we can go to wireframe with hidden edges if you want to check if things are interfering, say if that transition's interfering with that bend. So you can see it's got a little bit of room either side of it, so it's okay. What else can we look at here? Let's turn around this way. So you can see the edge of that tray there. See, it's flush here, but it's got a little bit of a gap there. You really got to know what you're looking at though, to be fair, but if you know what you're looking for, you can see where edges are interfering. Let's go back to shaded with edges. So now it's time to place our bolts. So you can bring them in from that parts folder. I've put them in. So I usually do that because when you put nuts and bolts in something, it's a good idea to bring them in from the content center initially, and then you isolate them, you double click on them, and then you save them into the folder that the rest of your parts are in. And the reason you do that is because when you open it up on someone else's computer, if they don't have the exact same nut and bolt in their content center, it'll come through and it'll say missing this, missing that, and then you'll find they have to add all the bolts back in themselves. So if you save them as parts and put them with the rest of it, if the software updates or someone else uses the drawing, then that will all come through with the assembly file. So now we just need to put the bolts in there. So let's go place from content center. Make sure we're in the bolt section and under hex head. And I'll go for this one here at the start. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click the inside of the circle, inside the hole rather, and the face. Go apply. And then I'm going to go around to the next one and repeat. So inside of the hole, face, apply. That way. And you can see just doing that is actually picked up on the fact there's two of them in that surface. And I can do the same here. Tick. That to that. And tick again. And it's put both bolts in there, so that's good. And I'll tick that and this face for this one. Now I'm going to do change size in the last one. This is the quickest way to do it that I've found. And then we can go M8 by 16, replace all, apply. That's because we just want a little bit more thread on it. And let's go OK. So now we've got our M8 by 16s all over the place. You can see all these degrees of freedom, they can still rotate, but I mean, I don't usually bother constraining them so they can't rotate because it's just a bolt. So I would just turn that off if it's getting in my way. So I'll just go over to view and turn degrees of freedom off, so I don't have to look at it anymore. Now we want to place a nut. So let's place from content center and nuts, hex nut, and we'll just go for the first one in the options today. There to there, there to there. Go auto drop, and we'll do the same here. That thread, that face, auto drop. And now it can be a bit tricky because we've got, so we can't see the other side of these bolts. So I'm going to get out of that command, go escape. And I'm just going to come over here to the ashtray and I'm going to turn its visibility off. So now we can see past it, and we can come back and place from content center again. Just click on the nut and go around it to these. So it should gather there's two here. So if we go here to here, auto drop. Well, it didn't pick it up that time. There to there. So it can be a bit kind of glitchy, this feature, just because it's doing a lot of thinking while you're moving around. There to there. And let's hit home. Now we've got all our nuts and bolts on there, and I'm just going to come over and turn the ashtray back on. And now we have our fire fully assembled. So, and again, what I usually do with these is I'll come into this bolt and I'll just click on it. I'll find one that I want, double click, and I'll file, save as, and I'll save that bolt. Rather than saving it in the content center, I'll find the folder that I'm working in, this one here, and I'll actually save that in there. So it's in there, I've named it that in the ones I've given you, so I can save it in this folder. And then when it comes through to someone else, it'll pick that up, and it's got that bolt with it. And I'll do the same with the nut, just save it all in the same folder so they don't get lost. So now it's all complete, we'll just go File, Save. So I've already saved this, so I'll go Use to All. Just make sure you save that, and if you submit to me the IAM file, which is that one there, and these large icons, that's what I need, and I should be able to open that up, and all these parts will stick to it as well. So I'll be able to tell if you put everything together properly.